The film opens in 1932, Clarksdale, Mississippi, with Sammy Preacher Boy Moore, a young blues guitarist, staggering into his father's church during Sunday service. His face is clawed and bloodied, his guitar neck snapped in his hands. His father, Pastor Jedediah Moore, embraces him but urges Sammy to renounce music, the devil's work, and seek salvation. Sammy, traumatized and silent, clutches the broken instrument as the screen fades to black. A title card reads, "One day earlier," setting up the tragedy to unfold. In a sudden cut, the narrative rewinds to the morning before, against a backdrop of sharecropped cotton fields under oppressive Jim Crow laws. In a rusted Ford pickup, World War I veterans and former Chicago mob enforcer twins Elijah Smoke and Elias Stack Moore roll into Clarksdale, Mississippi. They carry suitcases in hand. They've returned with stolen money from Al Capone's outfit to open a new juke joint. Their first stop is Hogwood Sawmill, a derelict wood frame structure owned by Hogwood, a racist landowner and Ku Klux Klan leader. The brothers survey the ramshackle structure, already envisioning its transformation into Club Juke. Against Hogwood's sneering resistance, Smoke and Stack press him to sell, tipping stacks of bills onto the counter until he concedes. Determined to assemble Club Juke, the brothers recruit their cousin Sammy, a prodigious guitarist, despite his father's warnings about music's supernatural danger. Pastor Jedediah cites 1 Corinthians 10:13, a verse about resisting temptation as a plea for Sammy to avoid the devil's music. Sammy ignores him, drawn to the promise of artistic freedom. The twins also hire Grace and Bo Chow, Chinese immigrant couple running adjacent shops, who supply the joint with food and liquor. Grace wears a cross, symbolizing her syncretic faith. Delta Slim, they find a washed-up blues pianist performing in a ramshackle roadside bar, who dismisses Christianity as a white man's religion forced on black Americans. After a brusque negotiation, Delta Slim agrees to headline the new club. Pearline. Sammy meets Pearline in a churchyard, and her warm smile awakens his hopes beyond familial duty. Mary. Stack slips away to rekindle a romance with his ex, Mary, a mixed-race woman passing as white, who resents him for abandoning her. Their fraught reunion underscores the dangers of interracial love in the segregated South. Cornbread the bouncer. In the cotton fields, a gentle giant cotton field worker signs on as bouncer. Annie the conjurer. At a modest shack on the edge of town, they enlist Annie, Smoke's estranged wife and a hoodoo practitioner, who wears a protective mojo bag necklace imbued with ancestral magic. Her faith in spirits and protective warding marks her as both cook and spiritual guardian. Annie quietly performs protective rituals, scattering salt and whispering prayers. Smoke clashes with Annie over her hoodoo practices, blaming her for failing to save their infant daughter. Their arguments reveal lingering grief and distrust, symbolized by Smoke's refusal to wear the mojo bag she gifts him. As the joint's opening night approaches, the rhythms of black Southern life fill the air. Sharecroppers labor in cotton fields, and Choctaw vampire hunters stalk the woods. Meanwhile, Remick, an Irish vampire fleeing the Choctaw, turns a Klansman couple into his undead minions. Remick's coven represents a perverse inversion of salvation, offering immortality through vampirism, a false promise of liberation from racial violence. As twilight falls, while workers hang string lights, the mill's transformation is immaculate wooden beams rising, lights strung, Annie's pots bubbling, Delta Slim rehearsing, and Sammy practicing chords. Club Juke pulses with excitement. Sammy, stepping into a single spotlight, launches into an electrifying original blues number, his voice a bridge between earth and spirit. Ghostly African drummers and spectral Irish fiddles flicker at the edges of the crowd, hinting that his music is piercing the veil between past, present, and future. The crowd dances in a sweat-drenched trance, unaware this veil-piercing music has attracted Remick's coven. Outside, Remick and his white vampire followers singing Irish folk songs approach the joint, demanding entry. Smoke and Stack refuse, but Mary, desperate to prove her loyalty, slips out, bargains with Remick. Remick bites her, turning her into a vampire. She returns inside, seduces Stack and bites him. Outside, Cornbread confronts Remick and is turned instantly. Smoke then walks in and sees Mary on top of Stack. He fires his revolver, only to watch bullets ricochet off her inhuman flesh. Mary then staggers and escapes, leaving Stack on the floor. As survivors flee, remorseless vampires ambush them in the dusty courtyard. Bo Chow and other patrons falling victim to the rapidly spreading plague. Back inside, the remaining survivors Smoke, Sammy, Perline, Annie, Delta Slim, and Grace barricade the door with overturned tables. Cornbread returns, but the remaining survivors remain skeptical. He explains to them where he's been and asks to let him in. But when Smoke hands him money to go, Cornbread attacks him. Smoke then shoots Cornbread in the face, but he lifts back up. Smoke then returns back inside. Stack, now a vampire, is lured inside by a dropped invitation. Annie hurls a vat of pickled garlic juice at him, forcing him back into the night and buying precious seconds. Annie educates the survivors. Vampires can't enter uninvited and are vulnerable to sunlight, silver, and wooden stakes. Through the shuttered windows, Remick, a charismatic monster, courts them. He admires Sammy's gift, offers eternal life free of racial terror, and wants Sammy to lead his undead band, promising a vampire utopia of music and equality. He warns that Hogwood's KKK will attack at dawn, trapping them between two lethal foes. When the group refuses, Remick seizes Grace's young daughter as hostage in a chilling display of vampiric cruelty. In a heartbeat of defiance, Grace, fearing for her daughter Lisa's safety, deliberately invites the vampires inside, sacrificing herself and triggering a bloodbath. Vampires swarm and Grace and Bo perish together in a fiery embrace after she stakes her husband Annie, bitten by the vampiric Stack, begs Smoke to stake her before she turns. Delta Slim sacrifices himself, cutting himself to distract vampires as others escape. Smoke, Sammy, and Perline attempt to flee but are ambushed by Remick and Stack. Smoke and Stack engage in a savage, close-quarters duel. Meanwhile, Sammy and Perline face Remick until Perline is bitten and falls. Smoke and Stack fight in a brutal showdown, and Stack gets on top to bite Smoke, but the gift Annie gave him stops Stack from biting him. Smoke then fights off Stack and prepares to put a stake through his heart, but can't because of a flashback deal. Meanwhile, Remick repeatedly dunks Sammy in darkened water, a perverse baptism intended to force his transformation. But Sammy's grief turns to fury. He smashes his precious guitar over Remick's skull, but the beast revives. As Remick raises himself for a killing blow, Smoke plunges a wooden stake through his heart, ending the Vampire King in a gush of black ichor. At that moment, the first shafts of dawn streak across the sky, and every remaining vampire outside is incinerated in a blinding conflagration. With sunlight weakening him, Smoke limps to Hogwood's clan encampment. In a short, brutal skirmish shotgun blasts and fist-to-face, he exacts bloody vengeance on the men who betrayed him. Mortally wounded by a gunshot, Smoke collapses in the dust, visions of Annie and their baby daughter cradling him in ethereal light dancing before his eyes. Bleeding and broken, Sammy stumbles back up the steps of his father's church. His pastor father pleads for him to renounce the blues as devil's music, but Sammy, rejecting piety for his guitar, he leaves Mississippi, becoming a blues legend in Chicago. The final post-credits scene fast-forwards to 1992, where an ageless Stack and Mary visit Sammy, now a celebrated blues icon, in his Chicago club. They reveal that Smoke spared them on the condition Sammy live in peace. They offer him immortality, but Sammy declines, playing one final song. He reflects, "Until the sun went down, it was the greatest day of my life." Thank you for watching. What did you think of the new Sinners movie? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to brand new recaps.